Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry. My wife Irene and I built our 43-acre homestead largely by ourselves here in the northern Arizona high desert. We moved into the house a little less than 20 years ago, and a few things are starting to go wrong as they age. Well, one of them that's going wrong is I have a check valve. Now, a check valve is something that's intended to hold water back in one direction. You can see in here there is a plunger that has a spring mounted on it that will push a stopper back against a seat. And the water direction goes this way. So water comes in from this side and comes out this direction. I'm going to show you how I diagnosed this problem. Now my water system has some gauges on it. This one right here tells you what the amount of pressure is that's coming from this pump into the rest of the system. Right now it's down almost zero. I'll show you what's happening here. I'm going to turn the electricity on and switch the switch on. What I'm doing right now is pumping up the pressure tank with water from our tanks up on the hill. Now it's sitting right around 50 psi, 50 pounds per square inch right now. This pressure switch is set up to turn off at 65 psi, 65 pounds per square inch. The gauge is going to keep working its way up and will eventually turn off. I just turned off the pump, and as you see, the pressure is going down. It was up about 45 psi. It's down already to 20 psi. And what that means is there's a check valve in the system here that stops water from going back into the pump. But there's still a problem because the water can leak out through this check valve that's down here in the bottom. The check valve looks just like this. What I need to do is remove that section of pipe, take off the check valve, and put this one in. Now I need to remove this check valve right here. In order to do that, I need to disconnect a union right here and another one up here. Once that's off, I can unscrew this and put the new one in. So let's get started. Turn off the section side. That's the water that comes from the tanks up on the hill. Now I'm going to turn off the valve that goes to the rest of the system. This is on the pressure side, so this is going to the pressure tank. Let me make sure I turn this the right way. Now these valves have stops. I just have to feel where they are. That means this valve needs to be turned clockwise. I made this tool for opening and closing valves because these valves get stiff over time and I don't want to break them. This tool has a cut right across here. And these two cutout areas go over the two pieces of the valve, the two handles. So I've just shut everything off. Now I need to get wet. Well, I don't need to, but I'm going to have to because that's the way these things go. Now there's not a lot of pressure in this system right here now, but I will have to use my pump pliers to disconnect the connection here and the connection that goes to the water tank up on the hill. This is something I definitely need to use a pair of pump pliers. All I had to do is break it loose. Now I need to do the same thing up here. Once those screw connections are disconnected, I can start pulling this apart. Now there's going to be water go all over the place, and there's no choice but to do that because there's water in the system. I do have a bucket down below that I may be able to use to catch some of that water. Now all the water that's in this bottom part of this pipe is going to come rushing out. There's no choice in this matter. That's what's going to happen. Move a few tools out of the way so that I don't get them wet. I'd rather not have them rust if I can avoid it. And I'll move the bucket back over to this side so I might be able to catch some of the water. And as you may have heard, all the water came rushing out of this section of pipe. That's what I wanted. Well, now I need to remove this check valve right here. It's going to be a little bit of a work because there's pipe dope here that's going to make it harder to turn these two connections off, but I'm going to start doing it anyway. Well, this piece right here is starting to turn, so that'll be the first piece I take off. Assuming I can get it to turn enough. I'll bring you back when I have this valve out. Well, it's a half hour later and I finally have the check valve off. I had to use a torch on it to heat up the pipe dope that was on these threads because it was really frozen in place. So I tried pushing this in and there's some kind of rough spot inside the check valve. Now that may be some crystallized calcium. It could be some other minerals from the water supply, but that's what it seems like. Now I need to go ahead and start reassembling this entire thing. I have one piece of pipe here. I need to wrap some Teflon tape around these threads, and I put pipe dope on it again. The pipe dope helps seal up the threads so they don't leak. 1, 2, 3, 4. I try to have 4 wraps on the threads to start with. That works pretty well for these larger PVC fittings. This is an 1.25" fitting. Now you have to be really careful when you put this back together to make sure the water is going to flow in the right direction. There's an arrow on this valve that points the direction of the water flow. It goes in this direction. I'll just get it started, and then I'll put some pipe dope on these threads. The pipe dope is really gooey. It's thick, but it does a good job. This is kind of belt and suspenders for sealing threads. It is very gooey. And this job isn't really terribly difficult, but there's a lot that can go wrong. I was very careful removing this check valve from the pipes because the pipes are, I don't know, probably 12 years old now because I've replaced these check valves. This is the 5th check valve I've put into the system in the past 20 years. I'll just screw this in and start tightening it up. Double check to make sure I have it going the right direction. And yes, the direction goes from the suction side, which is right here, out to the pressure side. This goes to the pump. So, I think I'm doing it right. Now I need to go get the rest of the pipe and now assemble this other piece. In the meantime, I'm going to double check these fittings here to see if they're tight enough. If they're not, I'll tighten them a little bit. When the pump starts short cycling, which is what it was doing, it was running for 5 to 10 seconds, then it was shutting off, and it was taking a couple minutes to leak down. When that process goes on, especially as the leak down time gets faster and faster, it starts shaking these various pieces of piping apart because of the water hammer effect. That's when the water comes to an abrupt stop and it kind of hammers the pipes. So I just need to make sure that I get these things tightened up so they're not going to leak when I put everything back together. Now, just like the piece that goes into the suction side from the tanks, I need to put some Teflon tape on this side of the pipe, screw the check valve back onto this side, which means I have to be moving 2 pieces of pipe simultaneously because it has to go back in position. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Teflon tape here. Then I'll goof it up with pipe dope. I have on some nitro gloves because the pipe dope is very sticky. It sticks on everything. If you get it on yourself, it's hard to get off. And I'd rather not have that going on today. I have other things I need to do. Well, that's the end of that particular piece of Teflon tape. So now I need to go ahead and put on the pipe dope here. More gooey stuff. I put it on the same direction that I wind the Teflon tape. So otherwise it starts unwinding the tape. And my objective is to have the tape stay in place. I need some more goop. I think that's going to be enough because as you screw this together with the check valve, it's going to be squeezing the pipe dope out. So, let me see if I can start screwing this together. And that's going together pretty nicely, actually. So you hear the half of the union here is sliding around. Before I put the union back together, I'll be putting some silicone grease on the gasket that holds the water pressure in on the tank. Well, you get the idea. I'm going to bring you back when I have this all screwed together. Well, I have the piping put back together with the check valve in the middle. I'm going to put some food safe petrogel, which is lubricant. It's not exactly silicone, which I'd originally said, but it's used to lubricate O-rings and such like that in drinking water systems and food equipment. So, and there's the O-ring that has to be greased to make sure it goes in the way it's supposed to go in. I'm going to put a little bit of this grease on the threads. That just makes it a little easier to put it on and take it off. There's no guarantee that everything's going to be watertight when I put it back together this time. I think it will be. I think I've got it together right. I'm just making sure I have the O-ring seated in the groove that it goes into. It seems to be there. I have one more O-ring to grease down here. That's greased up. I'm going to go ahead and grease the threads on this half of the fitting too. As I said, it makes it easier to put these threaded fittings onto the pipes. It's really easy, or a lot easier, when you need to take them off to have them greased. Now, let's see. This is an interesting set of piping. First, I need to put the large fitting on. And I'm not going to tighten it all the way up. I'm just going to get it basically seated. That looks like it's going to seat. It's really too hard to get a picture down to here while I'm working. There's not much room. There's a pressure tank that's blue on my right hand side. There's the pump on my left hand side. And I need to make sure I can get things screwed together. And that's basically screwed together right there. Let's double check to make sure the O-ring's still in place. The O-ring is in place. Now I need to match this up. Tighten up this fitting. It's going together pretty easily, which is good. Now what I'll end up having to do is I'll be taking this entire piece of piping apart. I'll be putting in a Y strainer. That's just a Y-shaped fitting that has a strainer that goes in so I can remove any sediment or trash that's coming down the line. I haven't had to do that for 20 years, but I think that they've had a few issues with problems with the water pump in town. Okay, let's tighten this back up. Now what I'm doing is I'm just trying to tighten this hand tight. I don't want to over tighten it. The objective here is to make it not leak. I don't want to over tighten it because it's possible that I could crack these fittings. So time to open it back up. What I'm going to do first is open the suction side valve that goes to the water tank up on the hill. And make sure I turn it in the right direction. Okay. Now I just watch for water leaks. before I do anything else. Now, because there's plenty of water in the water tank up the hill, there's a little bit of pressure on these fittings. I had a little bit of water leak earlier when I was taking this all apart. Seems to be okay now. Let me see if we can open up the valve up here. Well, you know, I can actually try running it without opening the valve. Let's see if it starts to work, or if it leaks. Well, I have to get some of the air out of the line because, remember, I took the pipe off and I have a spot here where I can let water fill the lines. I should have done that before I turned on the pump. I can hear the water bubbling up. Let's see if this works now. Well, let's turn it on and see what happens. I'll need to go ahead and open up that valve up here. Let me see if I can do that without the pump pliers. Again, I'm using the tool that I made, so I don't want to put any pressure that I don't need to on the two handles of the valve. Well, I will need to get the pump pliers, so I'll go ahead and do that, and I'll start turning things up. I'll bring you back when I've gotten things tightened up and I'm ready to run it. I'm a little concerned about that valve. It's getting so stiff that I'll probably have to replace it when I'm replumbing the system here. I'd rather not, but it does look like I'll have to do that. Let me see if I can prime the pump more. Let's try it again. Let's see if that valve holds. It seems to be holding. We're at, we shut off, we're at 32 psi, and this seems to be holding. Well, let's see if it continues working, which would be nice because I don't want to take it apart yet again. Tighten this one up a little bit. I just want to tighten it enough so that the water doesn't leak. The check valve is holding. So this repair is tentatively done. By tentatively I mean I'm going to come out with some paper towels and dry this all off and make sure there's no leaks. But right now the check valve is holding, which means that the water system is working just fine. There may be a few leaks on the unions that I hooked up, but I don't think there are. Everything seems to be solid. Well, this is a 2-hour job. It didn't take very long to get the pipe and that check valve out, but it took a lot of time to get it apart and then put it back together. You've seen everything that went on from start to end. I do know that I'm going to have to do some changing of the plumbing here because I'll be changing this check valve out for a Y strainer, and I'll be moving the check valve up in this line over here. That's just what has to happen because of the orientation of everything in the utility building here. Well, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications because we had a lot more going on. Irene's been out in the greenhouse. She's been down in the studio. She's busy fixing a Roman shade in the house. She did a bunch of relish today. I helped with getting some of that put together. It's now all canned. It's ready to go on the shelf. So, all in all, busy day, productive day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications because, as I said, we have a lot going on. I'll talk with you later. Bye. Hey, don't forget to brainstorm. We are